Coming up on Arirang News. President Yoon and main opposition party leader Lee Jae-myung have had their first ever official sit-down, which both sides call the starting point of bipartisan communication and cooperation. While Lee pressured Yoon to make political concessions, they agreed on the need for medical and pension reform. Amid the mass walkout of trainee doctors and weekly days off for medical professors, the government decides to deploy more doctors from military and public health centers. In the meantime, the number of medical schools have announced the sizes of their admissions increases. North Korea has reportedly laid mines near 3 roads that connect the two Koreas inside the demilitarized zone. This follows the scrapping of the interKorean military pact signed in 2018 last November. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. The first official meeting between President Yoon and main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung wrapped up just a few hours ago without major agreements. But it was politically significant. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young fills us in on highlights of their tea session.
President Yoon and main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung reconfirmed their differences over policy and state affairs, while also agreeing to continue their discussions. Yoon and Lee on Monday held their first official meeting since the president took office, following the ruling party's defeat in the April 10th general election, where Lee's opposition Democratic Party of Korea won a sweeping majority. With Yoon having offered to listen to all the opposition leader had to say, their tea time lasted 2 hours and 15 minutes, beginning with Lee's list of demands for political concessions. First, stressing the need to improve people's livelihoods, Lee asked Yoon to accept the DP's proposal of a 250,000 won handout, or roughly $182 to all Korean citizens, as well as the passing of a special bill to compensate victims of rental fraud. Yoon said livelihood support should be more focused on helping those in most immediate need, but the government will consult the opposition on additional measures. Another key issue or demand raised by Lee was to accept a special council probe into the death of a Marine last year, and a special act to look into the Itaewon disaster, where 159 people lost their lives as a result of a crowd crush. The DP attempted to put these bills through the National Assembly, only to have Yoon veto them, along with a special council probe into allegations of stock manipulation involving First Lady Kim Gon-hee. Lee appeared to allude to the bill, saying concerns surrounding family members should be cleared up, before asking the president to express his regret for exercising his veto on such bills. According to the top office, other than the Itaewon Act, the special bills were not discussed further. Yoon's senior press secretary Lee Do-won told reporters that to narrow their differences in approach to policy, the president suggested a bipartisan consultation body, while Lee indicated he prefers to keep negotiations within the existing framework of the National Assembly. The DP later announced it was disappointed by the meeting, as it sensed no pivot towards its demands for change. Still, the two managed to agree on the need to reform the medical system, with the opposition leader saying it is necessary to expand medical school admissions. He also said the DP will cooperate on the government's pension reform. While there was no joint statement between the two sides, Yoon and Lee agreed to continue meeting in the future in various formats as needed. Yoon has become the first president in South Korea's modern political history to serve his entire term with an opposition-led parliament.
More than anything, it is significant that the president and the opposition leader held talks for 2 hours and 15 minutes on people's livelihoods and state affairs. The meeting is seen by the top office as the first step in reaching out to the opposition.
It is too early to read the tea leaves, but the presidential office says it hopes the first tea meeting will lead to continued communication and cooperation. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
From this week, medical professors start taking 1 day off per week amid their tug of war with the government. The health authorities plan to send additional public and military doctors to help fill in their absence. In the meantime, a number of medical schools have announced the sizes of their admissions increases. Our An Sung-jin has the latest.
The government has decided to dispatch public health doctors and military medical doctors to help fill the void left by medical professors and junior doctors. The health authorities are reportedly going to look into the demand by Tuesday and deploy additional medical personnel if need be. While assuring there would be no major gap in medical services, the Vice Health Minister again urged trainee doctors to return to work and professors to remain with their patients, adding that the government has a strong will to talk.
We urge doctors to actively participate in discussions to devise improvement measures. A special presidential committee on medical reform has been officially launched, and the government reaffirms its willingness to engage in one-on-one conversations with doctors.
This comes amid much concern from patients in general hospitals, as medical professors made the decision to take one day off from their duties per week. That was decided on Friday at an emergency committee meeting of professors from around 20 major medical schools nationwide. They cited prolonged fatigue after thousands of trainee doctors have been absent from their posts since late February. Professors hinted at the possibility of more than just a day off if the government confirms that there will be an increase in the medical school enrollment quota. Starting this week, the so-called Big Five hospitals will begin to halt medical services one day a week, with professors at Severance Hospital and Seoul National University Hospital taking a day off on Tuesdays, while those at Asan Medical Center and the Catholic University of Korea Seoul St. Mary's Hospital will take Fridays off. Professors at Samsung Medical Center will take voluntary days off based on their working schedule. Adding on to its plan to deploy additional medical personnel, the ministry reiterated its plan to inject a total of around $7.5 billion into surgical and internal departments by 2028. As part of such efforts, it unveiled specific plans to improve the working conditions of essential healthcare workers by increasing medical fees for interventional heart disease treatments, which will change starting the first day of June. Meanwhile, some medical schools have made their final decision on their quota increases for the 2025 academic year. Gangwon University and Chungbuk National University will increase theirs by 50%, while the University of Ulsan has chosen to raise theirs by 75%. Though these schools face protests from medical professors and students after announcing their decision, the final number will be delivered to the Korean Council for University Education on Tuesday. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, South Korea's military says North Korea has installed mines near another interKorean road. This follows the regime's scrapping of the Inter-Korean Military Pact signed in 2018, last November. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea appears to have installed mines on all three roads connecting the two Koreas. According to a South Korean military official on Monday, the North laid landmines on the road inside the demilitarized zone late last year, near Arrowhead Hill in Cheoron, Gangwon-do Province. This road was created under the September 19th Inter-Korean Military Agreement signed in 2018 to combine efforts to excavate the remains of soldiers killed during the Korean War. However, after scrapping the 2018 agreement last November, Pyongyang has been taking action to ramp up its military measures.
At the end of last year, North Korea declared the complete abolishment of the September 19th military agreement and took steps to restore military measures. Accordingly, our military is taking necessary measures.
The regime has now installed mines on all roads between the two Koreas, which had once symbolized reconciliation and cooperation. In January, they were installed on the Gyeonggi and Donghae roads. The North also removed numerous streetlights. North Korea has also been spotted rebuilding its guard post within the DMZ, which had been destroyed under the 2018 pact. After declaring the inter-Korean relations as that of two hostile states, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in January called for strict measures to block all channels of communication along the border. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
As Hamas gears up to reveal its position on Israel's new ceasefire proposal, the international community is stepping up its efforts to secure a truce. Shin Se-byuk reports.
Hamas is set to dispatch a delegation to the Egyptian capital of Cairo on Monday to discuss Israel's new ceasefire proposal. This decision came after Hamas reviewed the proposal, which details a 10-week ceasefire, and determined that it contained no major issues. The Israeli media outlet, The Times of Israel, reported that the Egyptian government also asked Israel to send a delegation on the same day. However, it has yet to be confirmed whether Israel will send a delegation. Details of the proposal remain undisclosed. However, the Wall Street Journal, quoting Egyptian officials, reported that Hamas has agreed to release a first batch of 20 hostages. In exchange, Israel has committed to entering long-term discussions about the ceasefire period. The hostages slated for release include female soldiers, minors, and elderly people needing urgent medical attention. In response, Israel will release approximately 500 Palestinian prisoners. Should this exchange happen, both parties will commence further negotiations to restore sustainable peace during a 10-week ceasefire. The proposal also includes the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Netzarim corridor, which separates the northern and southern parts of the Gaza Strip. And it will allow thousands of Palestinians in Rafah, the southernmost city of the Gaza Strip, to end their displacement and return home. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden and his Israeli counterpart, Benjamin Netanyahu, held phone talks on Sunday, where the two exchanged their opinions on the ongoing hostage and ceasefire negotiations and Israel's planned offensives in Rafah. While it's unknown what the Israeli leader said about operations in Rafah, it's presumed that Netanyahu expressed his intent to go ahead with an attack if there's no ceasefire and hostage agreement reached. According to the White House, Biden, on the other hand, reiterated his clear position that there would need to be a clear and actionable plan from Israel on how they would protect civilians in Rafah. The talks come as Israel told the U.S. that it wouldn't launch an offensive in Rafah, where more than 1 million people are displaced, until the Biden administration had an opportunity to share its concerns. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Staying with armed confrontations in the world, Ukraine is suffering setbacks in its fight against Russian invasion amid shortages in crucial defense supplies. Yoon has more.
The commander-in-chief of Ukraine's military, Oleksandr Syrskyi, said Sunday that the situation on the eastern front line has worsened due to Russian attacks forcing a withdrawal from positions in Donetsk, while they wait for promised U.S. support, with Russia apparently keen to use its superior troop numbers and artillery before reinforcements arrive. The U.S. approved a military aid package for Ukraine worth $61 billion last week, but the new weapons have yet to reach Ukraine's front lines. Ukrainian troops have been struggling with shortages in manpower, ammunition, and air defense systems for several months. Taking to Telegram, Syrskyi said the situation had worsened, describing the most difficult areas as Mariinka and northwest of Avdiivka, a town captured by Russian forces in February. He also revealed some tactical success by Moscow, which had forced Kyiv to take up new defensive positions farther west, but added that it was unable to gain operational advantages. He did not address the status of the village Novobog-Mutivka, located about 10 kilometers north of Avdiivka, which Russia on Sunday claimed it had taken. Meanwhile, on Sunday, North Korea criticized the United States for supplying long-range ballistic missiles, which Ukraine has now used twice. The criticism, through North Korea's Korean Central News Agency, claimed that Washington's actions were a bad attempt that can never change the situation on the battlefield and will only fuel Zelensky's reckless confrontational behavior. Yoon, Arirang News.
Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to visit European countries from the 5th to the 10th of May. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson announced on Monday that the country's leader will meet with President Emmanuel Macron during his visit from next Monday to Tuesday. Following his visit to France, Xi is set to head over to Serbia and Hungary. Amid a strong dollar and heightened tensions in the Middle East, exchange rates in Asia have remained wobbly. The Japanese yen weakened to 160 against the US dollar at one point on Monday, which is its lowest in 34 years. This follows the Bank of Japan's decision on Friday to leave its monetary policy unchanged, signaling it'll hold off further rate hikes until it sees positive inflation. Similarly, the Japanese currency tumbled against other major currencies, such as the pound and the euro. Meanwhile, the South Korean won to dollar exchange rate has also risen this year, surpassing the 1,401 mark for the first time in 17 months. Last year, Korea saw a record number of international patients seeking medical treatment. Data from the Ministry of Health on Monday showed that the number of foreign nationals who received treatment in Korea but not residing in or covered by the country's national health insurance system reached 606,000. This is a more than 20% increase from the previous record set in 2019 and is the highest figure since data collection began in 2009. In terms of nationality, Japan took the lead with 31%, followed by China and the United States. Dermatology drew the most patients, followed by plastic surgery and internal medicine. Beijing has granted Tesla the green light for overseas data transfer to allow for the rollout of its full self-driving software in China. Our Shin Ha-young covers this approval and an announced visit to the Chinese capital city by Tesla's founder.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk arrived in Beijing on Sunday for a surprise visit, where, according to Reuters, he's expected to discuss the rollout of full self-driving software and permission to transfer data overseas.
It's good to see electric vehicles making progress in China. All cars will be electric in the future.
During the visit, Musk met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang and said Tesla is willing to take the next step in deepening cooperation with China to achieve more win-win results, indirectly referring to Tesla's request for assistance in rolling out full self-driving in China. Premier Li told Musk that Tesla's development in China could be regarded as a successful example of U.S.-China economic and trade cooperation, affirming that China's market is always open to foreign companies. Also on Sunday, it was announced that Tesla had passed China's data security checks. The China Association of Automobile Manufacturers on Sunday published a list of 76 vehicle models that is said were compliant with China's data security requirements. Among them were Tesla's Model Y and Model 3 cars. These requirements include anonymizing facial information captured by vehicle cameras and not collecting driving-related data. Chinese car makers including BYD and NIO also passed this inspection, but Tesla is the only foreign automaker to do so. As a result, the possibility of Tesla introducing its full self-driving software in China has increased. Despite developing this software 4 years ago, Tesla could not roll it out in China as it could not transfer data collected in the country abroad to train its algorithms, all due to regulatory constraints. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
On the local front, a display panel designed for the visually impaired is looking to offer them greater access to digital content and more. Our Yoon shows us how.
Bumps appear on this black display. Its stiffness is firm enough to be noticeable by touch, but disappears in 2 to 3 seconds. The height of the bumps can be controlled in 14 levels from 0.1 millimeters to 1.4 millimeters, as well as the stiffness from rigid to rubbery. This is a tactile display developed by a team of South Korean researchers. What's unique about it is that the polymer material used is merely the thickness of human hair, and the display doesn't need an electronic circuit.
The lack of a circuit board increases its durability because it makes the display less prone to physical impact.
The top layer of this morphable display is made of material that generates heat when exposed to light. And this layer is covered with a film that is rigid, but at a temperature above 50 degrees Celsius becomes rubbery. With added air pressure under the display layer, the bumps appear according to the LED light pressure.
Our goal is to increase the number of tactile cells to 5,000 for the expression of high-resolution graphics.
This research was featured in the international academic journal Nature Communications, and the research team added that this technology could not only be applied to electronic devices that help the visually impaired, but could also add touch to the metaverse. Yoon, Arirang News.
On the cultural front, The Taekwondowon has been contributing to the globalization of the Korean traditional sport Taekwondo, and this year it celebrates its 10th anniversary. Our Choi Soo-hyung went to see what this center means when it comes to promoting the spirit and values of this martial art.
A decade of the ready stance, a leap forward for the next 100 years. On Monday, the Taekwondo Promotion Foundation celebrated the 10th anniversary of its main center, the Taekwondowon, at the T1 Stadium in Muju, Jeollabuk-do Province in South Korea. Taekwondo is a traditional Korean martial art involving punching and kicking techniques. And over the past 10 years, the Taekwondowon has played a central role in promoting the traditional sport to the world. It has welcomed over 2.5 million visitors, with around 20,000 foreigners visiting each year for training in Taekwondo.
The Taekwondo Center was created through the strong desires of many Taekwondo practitioners. We run Taekwondo classes in 40 countries overseas and also provide various equipment to developing countries. We also support volunteer groups of university students to actively promote Taekwondo in developing countries.
A senior master in Germany who had contributed to the globalization of Taekwondo by actively engaging for nearly 40 years also came to celebrate.
In the past, we introduced Taekwondo by doing demonstrations on the streets. Then we started visiting elementary schools in Germany, gathering kids and teaching them. Things have changed a lot now.
The ceremony started with a marvelous performance by the Taekwondo demonstration team from Jeonju University. Especially noteworthy was the straight punch event performed by 16 representatives who established the Taekwondowon 10 years ago. Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism Yoon said the government will support making the center the hub of Taekwondo, enabling it to accurately spread the essence of Taekwondo.
Many people around the world who love Taekwondo, I hope they visit the Taekwondowon in Muju at least once in their lifetime. I would be grateful if they experience the pure spirit of Taekwondo and then go back to their own countries and spread Taekwondo there.
September 4th is Taekwondo Day in South Korea. The Taekwondo Promotion Foundation plans to hold a grand ceremony that day to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Taekwondo being adopted as an official Olympic sport in 1994. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News, Muju.
Leaving behind a weekend that was sunny all along, it is cloudy today. Up to 40 millimeters of rain will fall in Gyeongsangnam-do Province, 30 on Jeju Island, and 20 in other southern regions by dawn tomorrow. Less than 5 millimeters is predicted in the Chungcheong-do provinces and southern areas of Gangwon-do Province. The amount of rain will not be huge, however, caution is necessary as strong rain is expected around the southern coast. Since rain clouds have been staying everywhere today, the high temperature phenomenon that continued over the weekend will be dampened. The daytime temperature in Seoul will drop to 23 degrees Celsius. With temperature differences, you should dress up in layers. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and Daegu will start off at 14 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 24 in Chuncheon and Daejeon, Gyeongju 25 degrees. Most areas will have clear skies restored tomorrow, but it will rain again on the East Coast and Jeju Island. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great start to the week and a good night.